Greetings and welcome. My name is JoseRolon, and today I will be doing a presentation on climate change and increased hurricane severity. So what is climate change? It's a change in global or regional climate patterns, particularly a change apparent from the mid to the late 20th century. So how is it happening? Part of it is by us burning fossil fuels into the air. Air pollution in the form of carbon dioxide and methane raises the Earth's temperature. In addition to this, these chemicals stay in the atmosphere and insulate the Earth, making it hotter and increasing the temperatures. The ice shelves in Antarctica and Greenland, as they begin to melt, start raising the sea levels of the oceans. So what is a hurricane? A hurricane is a tropical cyclone rotating low pressure weather system. When they have maximum sustained winds of less than 39 miles per hour, they're called tropical depressions. Anything more than 39 miles per hour, they're called tropical storms. Once they've reached 75 miles per hour or greater, they're called a hurricane. The Saffir-Simpson wind scale has category 1 through 5, 1 being minimal damage and category 5 having catastrophic damage. This has to do with how much wind the hurricane is providing, and it tells you what you can potentially lose, from just a couple of trees as a category 1, to some flooding in category 3, to complete storm surge and loss of your entire structure as a category 5. Hurricane season begins on June 1st and ends on November 30th. Hurricanes can happen any time of year. This is just when they're the most likely. So let's look at some hurricanes. Hurricane Katrina in 2005 was the most devastating natural disaster the United States has ever seen. Killed at least 1,836 people. It was a category 5 storm, and it cost $161 billion US. Some of the things that came from Katrina were positive, major changes to emergency management. A lot of this was due to the federal government, state and local governments having political battles. The fact that FEMA was under the Department of Homeland Security caused a lot of confusion. The second most costliest hurricane was in 2017, Hurricane Harvey. Made landfall in Texas in 25 August. It was a category 4 storm. Cost us $125 billion US. As it made landfall, slowed down, and it dropped historic rainfall, 60 inches in 4 days in certain places of Houston. And it also required 120,000 people to be rescued. The second most costliest hurricane, Hurricane Maria, another category 4 storm. And new reports say that up to 5,000 people died because of Hurricane Maria. It was the third costliest, $90 billion US. And it was an infrastructure disaster. Puerto Rico already was suffering, especially its electrical company. And when Hurricane Maria hit, it devastated the island. Many places on the island did not have power for many months, and certain places, even a year, did not have power. To add to the struggles, it was many logistical challenges, being that it was an island, getting supplies there. You couldn't just put a bunch of trucks and drive down there. You know, you needed to either fly or take some type of boats to get there. There was also a lot of communications challenges. Hurricane Florence this year, another category 4 storm. Millions of livestock drowned, lots of food lost, lots of money lost, $50 billion US total. Bigger struggle from Hurricane Florence was the freshwater flooding after the storm. It was actually probably more of a disaster than the storm itself. Hurricane Florence also brought severe storm surge, hit North Carolina with an 11-foot wall storm surge. Then also Hurricane Michael, about 2 months after, another category 4 storm in the Florida Panhandle, spawned numerous tornadoes, and so far it's cost $25 billion US. So what does all this mean? Why are we having more hurricanes? Why are we having more severe hurricanes? Well, in order to have a hurricane, sea surface temperatures must be 82 degrees or greater. So if we're heating the planet, we're going to have more hurricanes because the ocean is going to be more ready to have hurricanes. So as the graph shows below, from the 1950s to now, as the sea surface temperature has raised, the power of hurricanes has also increased. So what kind of hazards does this bring for us? One of them is the unsustainable costs. As we can see, the most costliest hurricanes in United States history have been in the last 2 decades. Another problem is overpopulation. There's no place to live. People need places to build homes. So they're moving to coastal communities. People are still spending massive amounts living in coastal communities. So they're at increased risk, especially from storm surge. Since the sea levels are rising, then we are losing places on the United States, but also when the storm surge comes, it's going to go deeper and further. This is creating food shortages from the hurricanes. As I said, in Hurricane Florence, much livestock was lost. And there's also water scarcity because places with droughts are having more droughts, and places that have increased rainfall are being flooded more. So what are some of the solutions? First, we need to deaccelerate the rate of climate change. We need to stop using fossil fuels for everything. There's other types of alternate energies. We need to look at transportation. We need to have more public transportation. And we also need to look at how much we're consuming. The United States is one of the largest consumers in the world. We need to think about recycling. We need to be more efficient. Our vehicles, the way we use the power in our homes. And one thing that's not spoken about much is veganism. With the amount of people living on this planet, it's not going to be sustainable that everyone be able to eat meat. We need to start looking at alternate methods of eating. And as well, veganism can help our health and pretty much save animals. Finally, we want to look at alternate energy, solar power. Specifically, they've been doing solar plants out in the ocean, large, vast amounts of solar panels that would be able to provide power to cities. These are the types of initiatives that we need to start looking for. But these things alone are not going to stop climate change. Unfortunately, climate change is here, and we also need to deal with its effects. So we need to mitigate hurricane damage, especially in coastal communities. Coastal communities need increased building codes and enforcement on those building codes. Another very important aspect is wind mitigation devices. Wind mitigation devices can mean the difference between losing your roof and having to go to a shelter, or saving your roof and making renovations and staying home. Wind mitigation devices are usually cost effective. We need to try to see if we can get incentives from the government, monetary incentives to get people to use them. And through the next point, education. By educating people on these things, maybe they would be more willing to make the changes to their homes to protect themselves. In terms of funding, we need to be more proactive than reactive. That means spending money on mitigation and having to spend less money being reactive in our recoveries. And just like in any other thing, the plan. We need to have a plan. We know that this is happening. We know it's going to continue to happen, and it's only going to get worse. We need to have plans in place to protect coastal communities and other communities that we might not be expecting hurricanes to hit. And finally, our infrastructure. The United States has an aging infrastructure. Puerto Rico had terrible infrastructure, and unfortunately, it seems that they're going to get a lot more of the same. We need to start spending money up front so that we're not hurting in the back. That is my presentation. Please email me any questions.